It's pretty difficult to penetrate the closed minds of some. I was reading a report recently and it told me that the climate changes, quote, portend to a drastic decline in food production, unquote. Serious political implications, I was told in the article I read, for just about every nation on earth. The evidence in support, the article said, of these predictions has now begun to accumulate. The article said meteorologists are hard-pressed to keep up with these climate changes, and that the regions destined to feel the impact of these changed weather patterns are the great wheat-producing lands of the world, with an overall loss of grain production of up to 100,000 tonnes a year. The article said that scientists see this as advanced signs of fundamental changes in the world's weather. And we're told in the article that scientists are unanimous that the trend will reduce agricultural productivity for the rest of the century, that a major climatic change will force economic and social adjustments, it said, on a worldwide scale. Now, this is fairly alarmist stuff. The article went on, scientists see few signs that government leaders anywhere are even prepared to take the simple measures of stockpiling food or of introducing the variables of climatic uncertainty into economic projections of future food supplies. It said, the longer the plan is delayed, the more difficult they'll find it to cope with climatic change once the results become grim reality. What do you make of that? This is part of a story in Newsweek magazine. The only thing is, the story was headed The Cooling World, not global warming. The Cooling World, written when? There it is, April 28, 1975. I don't think the real danger here is in global warming or global cooling or anything. The danger is in so-called experts brainwashing young people. The Newsweek story of 1975 illustrates the extent of this deception. What it projected didn't happen. Well, the former Premier of Queensland, Campbell Newman, has written to me in a similar vein, enclosing articles about climate change, which warn about terrible consequences if action isn't taken. Sea levels will rise by 0.5 metre. There'll be no skiable snow within 40 years. Temperatures will rise between 1 to 2 degrees Celsius. Floods and bushfires will happen all the time. So, joining me now is the former Premier of Queensland, Campbell Newman. Campbell, thank you for your time. As with my piece from Newsweek 1975, warning of imminent danger, there is a problem with your articles, is there not? When were they written?
Well, look, they were all written, Alan, between, I've got a few of them here, and by the way, I'll put them up on my website, my personal website, Facebook page, so viewers can actually see this for themselves, and I'd urge them to go and search this. But I've got stuff from 87 through to about 94, and the hysterical projections that they made back then, Alan, 30, 34 years ago, exactly the same sounding sort of projections that we hear today. And look, maybe climate change is happening, maybe it isn't, but I say this, we have every damned right to question the projections. I mean, try this. In 1987, they said that there would be a complete a 1 in 50 year bushfire event every single year. They said that the Great Barrier Reef tourism resorts would disappear. They said that 50,000 square kilometres of Australians' coastland would be coastal fringe would be flooded. They also then they said in 1989 they said 90% certainty that there'd be a 1-2 degree increase in the temperature, and that sea levels would be up by 1 to 4 metres by, try this, 2030. There's projections that the sea level at Redcliffe on Moreton Bay would go up by 0.5 metre by now. And when I go down there, you'd be hard-pressed to determine anything that has happened. And I think the final one, my favourite, is this one, Alan, that building must halt on the ski fields. This was published in 1988 in the Canberra Times, 6th of November. It said there'd be no skiable snow within 30 to 40 years. 30 to 40 years. And that's why we should stop any sort of development. Well, we've had a great snow season from what I can tell. Yeah. A pity more Australians couldn't travel interstate to actually enjoy the snow that was there. So, Alan, it's right and proper we question it. Yeah.
Now, well, see, when those bushfires were on last year, it became a goldmine for the alarmists. I had Bjorn Lomborg up, a world authority, a visiting professor at the Copenhagen Business School, who pointed out that in 1900, 11% of Australia burnt in bushfires. These days it's about 5%. And that globally, he said, bushfires burn less land than before, and that the global burnt area has shrunk by more than a third. But those stories that you're talking about from 1987 said that global warming would double the bushfire danger. But the reduction in bushfires that Dr. Lomborg, this is where they can't argue with him, has been recorded by NASA satellites. And they indicate that the amount of land affected by bushfires in Australia declined by 1/3 between 1997 and 2018, and that the 2020 bushfire season, which was widely publicised and devastating to areas on the south coast, there was less burnt area than in previous years. I mean, I just wonder, Campbell, when are some people in Canberra going to wake up to all of this?
Well, the trouble is, Alan, and thank you for asking me that, the trouble is that we know what the Labor Party are up to and the Greens are up to. They're about to, net zero by 2050. But sadly now the Liberal Party, particularly the Wets or the woke members of the Liberal Party, people like Julian Simmons here in Brisbane, the member for Ryan, who seems to think he'll lose his seat. If I've got time, I'll prove that that's incorrect. People like David Sharma in Sydney, who are pushing for net zero. Now, the trouble is that these people are hell-bent on doing this based on this sort of science, which is still being regurgitated. And what will we see? We'll see the rural sector in Australia decimated. That's more a threat to food production than your 1975 article. We'll also see, importantly, the coal and the fossil fuel producing parts of our economy and our regions decimated, livelihoods gone, jobs gone, communities decimated, and they have no plan. They've got a target, they've got something, they've got a slogan, they've got something they want to go for, but they absolutely do not know the extent of the economic carnage they'll create, and really all they'll ultimately be able to do is throw more taxpayer dollars, more debt, more deficit to try and actually prop up those economies. So,
and Campbell, this thing. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Alan.
No, go on.
I think the coalition, frankly, are going to sell out their base. They're going to sell out rural Australia. For the farmers who are watching tonight, they're going to sell you out. For the coal industry workers, whether they be working in mines themselves or heavy engineering and maintenance or services to the mines, they're going to sell you out. Yes, there are some people like, say, Matt Canavan, who I have a lot of time for, but ultimately people in the National Party are going to get rolled over by the Prime Minister and the Libs. And it's not on. We have to stand up.
No, it can't be on. See, the
projections are wrong.
Yeah, the projections are wrong, everything. See, the point I've made, this thing at Glasgow is called COP26. That means it's the 26th time these people have all met from all over the world, 26th time, to try and win this battle of minds, and they've failed every time, and they'll keep trying to do it. But in the meantime, the corporate world's falling over, parties of all kinds, left and right, are falling over. I mean, Josh Frydenberg says, if we don't go to net zeros, well, then our interest rates will be punished in what we pay for our money, and there'll be all sorts of sanction against us. I think, as you said, we need someone with the spine to stand up, prosecute the case that, as Newsweek was rubbish in 1975, the stuff you're talking about in 1987 was rubbish. Prosecute the case, get into the ring and just say, and this is what we're doing, and if you don't like it, guess what? You can vote me out next time. Campbell, I reckon they'd be cheering from the rafters to vote them in.
They would indeed, Alan, and the members of Parliament from the Liberal Party I mentioned before, they've shown not the intellectual rigour or the intestinal fortitude, shall I say, to actually stand up and explain to their communities that we are basically paying our way in the world through these vital exports. And those communities are about real people, real families, and they cannot be sold out. They cannot be just abandoned in the way that the Liberal Party seems hell-bent on doing so. And the final thing, Alan, just if you'll just bear with me for a moment, there's a great article in the Australian Today by Judith Sloan talking about this Glasgow talk fest. And she makes the point that a quarter of the average UK electricity bill now is all to do with climate change, decarbonisation, sort of, a tax, if you like.
Yes.
She's talking about the fact that the wind hasn't blown and there's been a 16% decrease in wind energy production, and fossil fuels are up 15%.
That's it.
Great place to hold this conference, eh?
Yeah. I made those points last week. The situation in Britain, having implemented these policies, is diabolical. I will be talking tomorrow night about this very issue, but there is an agenda here. And I'll explain that to you, what this is about, tomorrow night. Campbell, thank you for talking to us. Always good to talk. Good luck and good health.